INput property overview. In this lecture, we will learn more about the INput property. Input, output. Honestly, these are just the basic concepts in computer science. The only thing that making it difficult is that we do not know the step-by-step procedure on how to use this or how to implement them in Angular. And sometimes, we plainly lack the time practicing or implementing it in our line of work. So, what does an INput property do? Well, the INput property simply enables the component to accept an input from another component. Nothing fancy here. It just allows the component to have a dynamic input value, which makes the component more customizable. This can be achieved by adding a new variable with an INput decorator. To implement the INput property, you only need to do three things. First and foremost, you have to import the input decorator from the @Angular core package. Second, declare a new variable with an input decorator. And lastly, add the new variable you just declared as a data binding target inside a square bracket. This means that when you call the component using its selector in another component's HTML page, you have to add this new attribute to the component selector. Let's make an example over here to help you understand. For instance, you want to add a new input property called title to your stock component. First, import the input decorator from the @Angular core package, in which the component, directive, and other commonly used decorators are also in. So, you simply just need to add input on this import statement. Second, declare a new variable with an input decorator. You can just add @input, then parentheses, title, colon, and string. And that's it. Lastly, add this new variable as a new data binding target in the selector. One important thing to note here is that you need to envelope this variable inside a square bracket, just like what is shown here. So say, for instance, you have this stock card selector for your stock card component, and I want to add a title to this specific component by using this title input property. To make it happen, you just have to add this title attribute and then wrap it in a square bracket as shown here, and then add the desired static value or a variable to the other side of the equation. Something like stock card title is equals to, let's say, Google, Apple, or whatever. And that is the three simple steps on how to implement the INput property. Again, don't make the common mistake of adding this variable inside a parenthesis. A parenthesis is used for the output property. In the world of Angular, there are various ways on how to declare an input property, aside to what I had shown you. We have four ways. First, using the default way. Second, using an alias. Third, using a set method. And finally, using the component metadata. The first one is simple. Using the default way, just declare a new variable, let's say title, and then add the @input decorator on that new variable. So you can enter @input and then open and close parentheses, title, colon, string, and that's it. The second way is using an alias. This is almost the same as the first one. The only difference is that you need to add a parameter inside the @input decorator. This parameter will be used as the name attribute along with your component selector. So for example, you can add @input and then my title, and then your variable name, title, and then string. The third way is by using a set method. So in here, you can just add your @input decorator, and instead of adding a variable declaration, we're gonna use a set method. So for example, you can add the @input decorator, then set title, and then it has one parameter, which is your title, and then set it as your specific variable. The last way is by using the component's metadata. This is quite different than the rest, as instead of adding the input property through a variable declaration, you're declaring it inside your component's metadata. This metadata is basically just the parameters declared inside your addComponents decorator, where the typical selector, template URL, and style URL parameters are located. So, inside your addComponents decorator, just add inputs variable, and then inside that, add an array in which you can add one or more input properties. So for example, you can add addComponents, inputs, and then title. And that's it. That's a wrap. On our next lecture, we will demonstrate how to use the addInput property to achieve communication between components.